Welcome to the Aaron Haber Show. Today's guest is actor and environmental entrepreneur Kevin Costner.
Welcome to the Aaron Haber Show. I'm your host, Aaron Haber, and joining me today is actor and entrepreneur Kevin Costner. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about his company, Ocean Therapy Solutions, but of course many of you know him for his artistic work in movies such as Dances with Wolves and The Bodyguard, Field of Dreams. He's an Academy Award winner, producer, director. What did I miss, Kevin?
We're playing a lot of rock and roll these days.
All right, I haven't heard the band yet.
Yeah.
All right.
Pay your money, buddy.
Okay, all right. I'll buy the CD.
There you go.
All right, I want to talk about, obviously, the Gulf oil spill. And you have a lot of firsthand impressions, opinions. You've tried to help as much as you can. And I've been fascinated by your story of how difficult it's been for you to provide aid, which certainly seems to have been something that should have been done. So let's start off with, I'd like to give people your sense of the magnitude of what has happened in the Gulf.
Well, I spoke today earlier to a larger crowd, and you know, people are calling it a disaster, or blah blah, whatever. And my comment was that I don't think there is a word that I don't think we have a word now that's as awful. You know, people are paralyzed by what's happened, and people guessing about what to do about all of it. And my sadness is that I could have done nothing about the leak itself. But you know, 15 years ago, I dedicated myself and my resources, along with to bring together scientists and engineers who could separate oil and water at a high speed so that we wouldn't experience, you know, another thing like the Exxon Valdez, where we watched a ship basically just, we watched it in very calm water just spill and fill up that harbor and make its way to shore. And I thought that we certainly could do better than rubber boots and pitchforks and hay. And so with that in mind, we began, I took a technology that I found in the Department of Energy and scaled it up with the inventor and a lot of men and women who worked really hard on this. And 2 or 3 years later, we had a machine that was so big and so robust and also so portable that the mandate that I gave them was, let's clean up the Exxon Valdez. Can we do it? And when we were done, we could have done that with 20 machines. We could have given them 90% of their oil back within the week, and it had been done. And probably the biggest upside of the whole thing was that oil would have been a reusable asset.
And with the situation in the Gulf, what could you have done if you had been called in right away?
Well, we shouldn't be thought of as a red Adair situation where you come in and you take out a fire. The assets should have been in place for that consequence that we know is going to happen. Not only it hasn't happened, it happens on a daily basis. So the truth is, my equipment, you know, was ignored largely by the federal government and by industry. No one was making it to have these things out there, and really, they were designed to be on location at the point of attack, you know, almost the same way you would have a life preserver, a lifeboat, you know, a fire extinguisher. We know that when something happens, you want to reach for those things. And over time, people have come to know that doing business on water, you need a life preserver, you need a lifeboat, you need a fire extinguisher. And in this instance, when oil has a chance to come into contact with water, the machines that I built should be in place. So if my dream would have come true, what would have happened is, over 12 years ago, these machines would have been on oil platforms, they would have been on oil tankers, they would have been on service boats that are moving back and forth in the Gulf, in the Pacific, around the world. And what would happen is, when there is such a leak, these assets would have all moved, all these fire extinguishers would have gone to one place. And so while we couldn't have stopped the leak, we could have kept that oil right where it was at. It would not have made its way into shore. We would, until that thing stopped leaking, we would have been sucking that oil up in a very efficient way. And so my heartburn, my heartache is that they weren't in place. And what needs to be happen is, these things obviously need to be legislated, because we're not sure industry will, you know, put their best foot forward. They'll put a foot forward, but is it their best foot? That remains the question. So these machines exist, and that's now got to be a heartburn for anybody who's watching this to go, really? They were really there? And you go, yeah, they could have been there. And so that's the dream. They should, and we have to understand that this isn't just salt water. This can be on our Great Lakes and our great rivers, on our, if you've ever seen Lake Tahoe or Lake Powell or any lake that somebody's watching this goes, what about our lake? Yeah, what about it? If something happens, is there going to be an answer? Or are we just going to have our, finger in our ear going, what's wrong?
Tell me how the equipment works, and how big is it, and what does it cost?
Yeah, well, the centrifuge, it's a centrifuge, which means it spins at a high speed, and it spins off it spins off, in this instance, oil from water. Oil goes out one, and water comes out the other side. And we've developed the machine in such a robust way that the company developed 4 machines, a V20, a V10, a V5, and a V2. And the V20 does about 200 gallons a minute. And it separates oil and water on each side to 99.9% purity. And now it's even purer than that with a membrane technology that we've commissioned and have been developing. So the cost, they're pretty pricey, but so is the Gulf spill. So, would you rather have the PR problem, or would you rather be out there fighting it at this moment?
Well, given what's already been spent cleaning up,
that's right.
It pales in comparison.
That's right.
What's a V? If I want to buy a V20 from you, what does it cost?
It's hard to say what the exact price will be because there's different things that go with it.
Okay. General thought. Concept.
I don't know, $250,000 for the machine itself.
All right.
And that's if you just want to drop it off the side, and because you're at your dock and some oil spills, and then it takes it away.
So these aren't really, and I'm trying to get a sense of the
They're
size.
Very portable. They're very modular. So they sit, right now we have them on boats where there's 4 sitting, side by side.
If you had 20 of those in the Gulf shortly after the spill, right, what kind of difference could they have made?
It would have probably captured a third or half of it.
So 40 or 50 would have made a huge difference.
Would have neutralized it.
And that's amazing.
But the other thing is you wouldn't have wanted dispersant, so actually probably could have gotten by with 20 or 30 because the skimmers, see, people keep hearing these words, skimmers and booms, and the skimmers are not actually that efficient because imagine a whale opening its mouth and then closing. Well, there's an enormous amount of water that's in there with oil. So when a ship fills up, it's got an enormous amount of water and oil. What happens is, on those particular ships, the skimmers, my machine should also be on those. Why? Because they fill up, you shoot the water out, now you've got a third of that boat full of oil. You go get some more, now it's half full of oil. You do that process 3 or 4 times, and pretty soon that boat is going into shore with 100% payload of oil. And so just the efficiency of the gas that it costs you to take the boat back and forth. So now what happens is all the assets are working. If these boats got these booms and these fishing boats, they're skimming it, you can throw a hose back into the back and, okay, it's gathered it, so to speak. It's pretty filthy. But you drain that very, very quickly, and you take that water and you take it to a mothership, if you will, and have that mothership just keep spinning off water.
You could make the cleanup a profit center.
Well, in this instance, there's I guess on the High Sea Act, whose oil is it at that point? And I guess if the industry has it's their machines and it's their asset, but yes, it becomes resaleable. So you've avoided your PR nightmare, you've got your asset back, and you've done the right thing.
So why didn't they do it?
It was too expensive, and the notion is that we're not going to have an oil spill, and so we know both of those things. These are industries that operate at a very high margin, and they could, afford this kind of prevention. It's not prevention. This is, I don't come at this as from an argument that's like, the philosophy. A lot of the philosophy we're heard out there. That's what other people talk about. I'm kind of like, okay, where's the problem? How do you fix that? And I kind of take away all the noise of bureaucracy, of industry, of we should do this, we should have a committee. I'm kind of more like, okay, let's let's find the widget that fixes this. And so that's how I go about things.
One of the things I want to talk about, we're going to take a quick break, is, I mean, you've been doing this for 1.5 decades, and this equipment really has been sitting idle.
It has been sitting idle. So the saddest part of it is it's probably lacked the R&D of 10 years of working on the ocean, where it might be incredibly efficient. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Kevin Costner. We're going to talk more about the Gulf and what should have been done and his experience with BP, the EPA, and other government agencies.
There's more of the Aaron Haber Show after this. Coming up next.
I really naively thought that this would, just be really
it's a huge win-win-win.
Sound like lemonade on a hot summer day, and it didn't, because no one legislated that they had to have that.
For information on how to help promote civil and mutually respectful discourse and support expansion of the distribution of our programs, please email info@habertv.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Haber, host of The Aaron Haber Show. The purpose of my program is to engender discussion in a format which promotes civil discourse. That is why you don't see a lot of shouting on the program or any chair throwing. My approach is to give guests a chance to tell you their opinions and explain the basis for those opinions. I believe guests reveal themselves when given a chance to fully speak their minds, as opposed to being limited to a few minutes or even just several seconds, as is often the case today on television. To make certain everyone feels welcome, I always try to make certain the programs are nonpartisan. That is why you see both Democrats and Republicans on the show, as well as people who are not affiliated with either major party. And by being nonpartisan, I'm able to bring guests to you from a broad spectrum of leadership across America and the world. Please feel free to tell me about the job you think I am doing and how we could improve the show. All you have to do is send an email to aaron@habertv.com.
The Aaron Haber Show may be viewed 24/7 at no charge from any location in the world at www.habertv.com. Now back to the Aaron Haber Show.
We're back with Kevin Costner. We're talking about the Gulf oil spill, leak, disaster, whatever terms you want to use. Kevin, I want to hear about your experience. So you had what seems to be a very straightforward solution. This doesn't seem to be something that required a tremendous scientific investigation. You could demonstrate the effectiveness. In fact, you bought the technology from the Department of Energy itself to begin with. So this is technology.
This was a great opportunity for a win situation for the government that they develop. And what happens is the government can't go into business for itself, and oftentimes, like the clearest example for the people would be like perhaps on the space program when they developed a way to cook the men's meals in space, and it was the microwave. And of course, this was an unbelievable thing, but the government couldn't go into private industry. Private industry found out about this technology. They developed, and hence every home has a microwave in it now. But it came out of something that the government was doing. So this is exactly the same thing. The government was doing something with this little centrifuge. We took it out of that and brought it into the public sector.
By scaling it up.
By scaling it up.
Testing it. And
this isn't two sticks and a chant. This is highly engineered. It's highly scientific, created by a great scientist, engineer, David Mykrantz.
So you went to, I assume you tried to communicate with BP early on and said, hey, we've got something that can help you.
I had this moment where I was almost petulant, which is, there's your problem. I've had this thing for a long time. I didn't really know how to react. I was actually, believe it or not, on my way up, some people asked me to go to Calgary to go look at the tailing ponds up there in the Boreal Forest, which is a nightmare. And I was actually going up there to think about a solve for that. And this all started happening, and eventually I went down. It took us a long time. I mean, Doug Suttles was very good. Doug
at BP.
At BP, Doug saw the technology. He's an oil man, and he began to understand it. And he, instead of taking it out, though, where I knew it would succeed, he took it in to where I wasn't sure it could succeed. It was like the oil had become like peanut butter, and that didn't seem like a fair test to me. But the men who had been working day and night, they figured out a solve. The machine was so robust that once it was given the solve, it could solve it. So then it just kept moving back out to the point where they knew it would work out in the Deepwater. But
when did that occur, though? How long after this all started?
Well, I went down about a week and a half after the spill, and I let them know that I had this thing. And, the word was out, well, get in line because there's 1,800 people. I go, no, I've had this thing for 15 years. So I got them on the phone and talked with Doug and general counsel and explained to them what this was, how much engineering, how much science went into it. And Doug began to move pretty quickly on it, but it had to go through its own motions. It was always too slow for me, but by their standards, they were moving as quick as they could. He wanted to be sure. And then when they ordered 32 V-20s to go on these service vessels that are going to be operating out there. And that will allow them to, as they pick up the oil, again, to have that efficiency of filling up their boats.
How about with, what was your experience with the EPA?
Well, the EPA was something that I ran into early in the development of the machinery, which is once I saw that it could clean up oil at 99.9% purity, I thought that industry and the government would all get together and go, hey, this works good for the public that we're supposed to protect, and as an industry, you mean it gives me my oil back? Yeah. I really naively thought that this would, just be really
it's a huge win-win-win.
Sound like lemonade on a hot summer day, and it didn't, because no one legislated that they had to have that. And I've said before that safety isn't sexy; it isn't a profit center, and so no one was telling them they had to have this safety equipment there to collect this oil. They didn't buy it, and from a government standpoint, every agency. The EPA had a standard of 15 parts per million, which was
you couldn't have more than 15 parts per million
go
oil
back into the water.
And
my argument was, in a first line of defense, wouldn't you be happy if we got 50% of the oil out of the water, let alone 99 point, let alone really effectively going after and cleaning up. So that was a very frustrating couple 3 years for me. We would try to get the machine out on different oil spills, and the Coast Guard would not allow it to go out. And you go, because it hadn't been tested. So, well, we'd like to test it. We took it to the facility in New Jersey. Go, well, we really love the machine, but we can't let you get out there. Well, well, how do we put on oil spills? Well, it has to be tested. Well, so there you go. Somebody who's drinking a beer now is going, Jesus, what a problem. It was a catch-22, and it's held us back. Our own bureaucracy has really held us back.
So, and you talk about profit center. We're going to take a quick break, and I want to come back to the issue of safety in a profit center.
Yeah.
We're going to be back with Kevin Costner for our final segment in just a minute.
There's more of the Aaron Haber Show after this. Coming up next.
They have to have a reasonable response, and what we've seen out there is not reasonable by anyone's expectation.
Your opinions, ideas, suggestions, and criticisms related to guests, topics, questions, or the host are welcome. Please send an email to producer@habertv.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Haber, host of The Aaron Haber Show. With our video RSS feed, you can be notified of each episode as soon as it's live on the web. All you have to do is go to our website to subscribe. It's free and works with any browser.
I'm Mary Robinson, former President of Ireland.
Hi, I'm Jim Cameron, Director of Avatar.
I'm Christina Johnson, former Undersecretary of Energy.
Hi, I'm Oliver Stone.
Hi, I'm Mike Peters. I'm the creator of Mother Goose and Grimm.
Watch The Aaron Haber Show.
I would encourage you to watch the Aaron Haber Show. It's good fun.
Watch the Aaron Haber Show, because he's a really cool guy.
Please watch the Aaron Haber Show, on which I do appear.
I want you to watch the Aaron Haber Show. Grimmy watches it every day.
Hi, I'm Aaron Haber, host of The Aaron Haber Show. Would you like to run better? Visit Uta Pipik's Take the Magic Step website for the information you need. Run with joy and stay injury-free by being relaxed from the inside out. I'm Aaron Haber, host of The Aaron Haber Show. We depend on contributions to support our work to bring you some of the nation's and world's top opinion leaders. Individuals, businesses, foundations, and other nonprofits make tax-deductible contributions to the Democracy and Media Education Foundation to allow us to work for you. To find out more or to make a donation, please go to dmefd.org. Thanks for watching the show and for your support.
To obtain a DVD copy of this program, please contact info@habertv.com. Now back to the Aaron Haber Show.
Welcome back. We're talking with Kevin Costner about the Gulf oil spill and also his company, Ocean Therapy Solutions. So we talked about the whole profit center idea. What about the idea of safety when we talk about safety not being a profit center? Why don't we make it a profit center? Why don't for example, should oil companies, when they have a spill, should they have to pay for every gallon that's spilled?
It seems like if you're going to do, oceans are something we all share. And if you're going to make a profit on the ocean, it would seem logical that you have the ultimate responsibility and that there is a price to be paid for polluting. It keeps everybody sharp. If money is the God they all pray to, then the penalty has to be about money. And it has to be significant because they make so much money. If it isn't, it just is, the old classic thing, I'd just rather pay the fine and keep going. We're only here for a short amount of time. And how we leave the planet is, people have said it in a variety of ways, but we are only here for a short amount of time. And those people that operate on the oceans, they need to be in a position, if anything goes wrong, to actually try to take care of that particular problem. And the only reason that they should maybe not be on the hook is if they're actually fighting for their own life because they're in a storm or something. But short of that, they have to have a reasonable response. And what we've seen out there is not reasonable by anyone's expectation. Well, rubber boots and a fork and a pitchfork doesn't kind of add up to the 21st century, does it? Well, that's a pretty sad image. We see birds in the same awkward spots, fish just fighting for oxygen, and we go, did it have to get all the way into shore? We couldn't have fought that at the source. That's what we do in a war. Anybody worth their salt knows that you take the fight to where the source is. That's what we need to be about. If an industry that can drill in water at the depths that they do, into the depths and core of the earth that they do, they have the science and engineer, they have all that kind of brain power to do that, then surely they can figure out how to clean up an oil spill.
So why don't they? Is it just because they can get away with not doing it?
Well, I think that, they have been able to get away with not doing it. And the relationship that has existed has allowed that, and there is a big stare. What do we do about it? Some of us do kind of things that I do, and the rest of us can vote. We have given up that. We minimize it, but let me tell you, the only reason that people stay in power is because they want the vote. And in America, if you want to change things, vote.
So when we take away lessons, I want you to think about what lessons should we take away from this? What do you think the government has learned, if anything? What do you think the people of this country have learned, if anything?
Well, I think people go into government because they do want to change things. But I think it's getting harder and harder to govern. When if it takes me 45 days to get my machines out in the water, if it takes, for years I couldn't get them on an oil spill, then somehow government has gotten in the way. Because you could bring in 20 inventions right here, and I'm not even a science and engineering guy, and everybody that's in this room, or the three of us, could look and go, I don't think that one's going to work. I don't think that one's, you know what, all 20 of these, none of these are going to work. Do we have 20 more? And you come in and somebody comes with something that's kind of, and you go, why don't we take that out and try that? That would take about 20 minutes to figure out that next oil spill, we'd like to see this machine working. And we have lost our ability to be fluid and be fluid on behalf of the American people and on behalf of an ecosystem that can't really speak for itself.
One of the issues that is of concern, and the initial reaction was positive, was that a group of the oil companies are getting together. They're forming the Marine Spill Response Corporation. And the idea is they said they're going to pool $1 billion and come up with ways to be able to respond a lot better than BP did. What are your thoughts about that initiative?
Well, I think there's a danger in that, because I think it's the same group that has that other organization. They're responsible for that one. And that one was ineffectual at this moment. So to think that they won't try to improve it would be a mistake, because I think that they will. $1 billion is a pretty catchy number. But the truth is, I think it's up for us to tell the industry when we think it's safe, not for them to tell us when they think it's safe. And I think the truth is, you can get at what would be a legitimate response to an oil spill, whether it be the worst case scenario or the smallest case scenario, and there's what I call a dumbbell math logic to it. You look at the Gulf, you see what's going on, you see the amount of oil derricks, and you see the amount of ship traffic, and you understand something, and you basically take my particular machine and you just work the math on how quickly could it get somewhere and how big is the spill. It's pretty logistically manageable.
One of the frustrations I think millions of Americans have felt is they've seen pictures, and not as many pictures as probably they should. How have you felt about that flow of information, number one? And two, what should Americans do? Especially those who feel so.
I think there's people that have a point of interest on this whole thing. And there's an overall interest in the whole thing. But for myself, I've just been worried about trying to not let this second thing pass without the American people being aware, without the government being aware, without the industry being aware that there is a solve and has been. So I've just kept my head down about the machine and about trying to put it in a place where it can work. We've worked on these, we're commissioning 2 boats to be built right now that can draft at 6 inches of water, that can go into the marshes. And we hope that the oil industry, we hope that BP, we hope that our own government mandates that we go in there and get at this oil that's pounding the shore.
All right, I want to thank my guest, Kevin Costner, for joining me today. This is Aaron Haber. We'll see you next week, and we'll be talking more about the Gulf. Kevin, thanks so much.
The Aaron Haber Show would like to acknowledge its supporters. Please thank them whenever you have the opportunity. A written license from USA Talk Network is required for any use of this program. To purchase a copy or footage from any program, please contact producer@habertv.com. Please go to www.habertv.com for more information on usage rights and licensing fees. Thank you. Please contact us. We want to hear from you. And thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Aaron Haber, host of The Aaron Haber Show. For information about the program, who our upcoming guests and topics are, and ways you can participate, please go to our website. That's habertv.com. And most of all, thanks for watching.